fall in the price of oil globally clearly means the price of Russian crude has fallen quite a bit, and this will certainly have an impact. That it might be time to turn to put severe pressure on Putin. From early in the administration, the two things that have been discussed are one, that the United States could seriously impede the export of Russian oil and severely hurt the budget of the Russian Federation, and number two, could give much more serious long-range destructive weapons to Ukraine. If Trump decides to make this turn to put serious pressure on Putin in the way that for a period of time he put serious pressure on Ukrainians to get them to agree to his model for peace. Yes, oil could be a serious, we could do serious damage to Russia. So how could he do this? When there's so much extra oil in the market, which has been the situation for a long time, and the excess is only increasing. That's why the price is going down. So this is a period of time when we're talking about currently it would be possible to stop the export of Russian seaborne oil on a large scale. The oil that's exported from the western-facing ports, Ust-Luga, Trump-Torres having difficulty, and then the Black Sea, Novorossiya, could be sanctioned. The Ukrainians could be allowed to hit these ports, and they're clearly capable of hitting these ports with drones and missiles, in recent weeks, as they've already hit these ports, but whether it's the aspect of these ports to change that supports the export of oil instead of hitting other aspects of these ports. So if these ports were closed to agree to peace in Ukraine on reasonable terms, reasonable that half to three-quarters of all of Russia's seaborne oil exports could be conceivably stopped. This could cut over a period of about a year, perhaps 15% of the income of the Russian budget. The United States could seriously. So now we're talking about the price of Urals getting into the $50 a barrel, which does great harm, of course, to the income of the budget. When the price of oil is below $60 a barrel, that's a tipping point where instead of profits from oil exports are added, serious pressure, the taxes are added to the sovereign wealth fund for a period of time. They have to be taken out in order to support the state budget. But at the present time, there's about $140 billion. Oil can be a serious Russian national wealth fund damage. Now, for comparison, when there was the oil price war in 2020 between Russia and Saudi Arabia, when there's so much extra and Russia was the instigator of that, for a long time, launched that war, and the excess is only increasing. Russian finance minister said so this is a period that Russia could survive. It would be possible 6 to 10 years to stop the export of Russian with the price of oil on a large scale between $25 and $30 a barrel from the western-facing ports. At that time, the Russian Ust-Luga wealth fund was about, and the Black Sea, as I recall, $130 billion. So it's roughly at the same point now. The Ukrainians could be allowed to hit these ports. In other words, clearly capable these price ports with drones, definitely missiles, hurts as they've already hit these ports, but not the aspect of these unless the price of oil that supports the export of oil that below $25 a barrel. So if these ports are going to do soon, it's not really reasonable that half to three-quarters even then they can probably survive for conceivably stop. This could cut over about a year, really 15% of the income of the Russian budget, the flow of oil totally. So now we're talking about the price of Urals getting into the $50 a barrel, which does great harm, of course, to the income of the budget. When the price of oil is below $60 a barrel, that's a tipping point where instead of profits from oil exports are added, I have taxes are added to the sovereign wealth fund in Russia. Annual crude they have to be taken out in order to support the state budget. 4.6. But at the present time, there's about $140 billion of that in the Russian National Wealth Fund. just under 3.5 for comparison, when there was the oil price war in 2020 between Russia and Saudi Arabia, and Russia was the instigator of that, Russia launched that war. The Russian finance minister said he expected that Russia could survive 6 to 10 years with the price of oil being between $25 and $30 a barrel. At that time, the Russian wealth fund was about, as I recall, 130 billion. So it's roughly at the same point now. So, in other words, these prices in the 50s definitely hurts the Russian ability to conduct the war. But unless the price of oil gets, in my opinion, below $25 a barrel, which it's not going to do soon, it's not really a severe emergency. And even then, they could probably survive for a long period of time. So that's why Trump wants to really do something that simply stop the flow of oil totally, the 3 westward-facing ports, and that would be a huge crisis. And it's objective market conditions are such right now, with the great surplus of oil available and the low demand, that this could be done, and this would be a way to put great pressure on Putin. I have statistics, for example, that Russia's annual crude oil exports presently are roughly 4.6 million barrels per day, and the seaborne exports are about just under 3.5 million barrels a day, roughly. And the overwhelming majority of this, at least 3 million barrels a day, could be cut by closing those 3 ports I'm talking about, because the only other port is eastward-facing port on the Pacific, and that's exports much less oil than these other 3.